Welcome to our second speaker in the speaker series. This is Bobby from Ozma, and she was a past student here, and in her master's thesis, I was told she did a digital game, or analog game, that can be changed through a digital game, which really impressed some people here. Now she owns her own company, and she was talking about that and how we can probably work with her or follow in her steps.
Yeah, hi everyone. So, my name is Bobby. I work at Ozma. We work with games and gamification. The company has been around for almost 6 years. I graduated from the Interaction Design Master Program in 2005. And I have had previously met my business partner, Karin, at the summer course at Malmo University in 2002. And that was before we had both, we were still students. So we started talking about starting a company together when we were done with our education. And when we were, we decided to give it a go and start a company. So I'm going to talk a bit about what we've been doing since we started and how it relates to interaction design. And Ozma, I might want to say something about her. It's her up in the corner. She is the Princess of Oz, you know, the land with the wizard. She is the rightful ruler of Oz. So that's the Princess Ozma. But Ozma is also the name of a space science project and a psychic from Arizona, and also a very strange super boss in Final Fantasy IX. So we really like the name. Yeah, it's also an album by a band called the Melvins, which I really like. And we started out with the idea that we would make games, but not traditional games, and we wouldn't decide on which platform or technology to use. We wanted to work with design, so and with the experiences. So for every project, we thought that we first see what it is about, and then we'll choose platform and technology. So the first thing we did was actually a couple of board games or social games for kids. That's the ones over there. They are for children's parties, and they were published in 2007 by Egmont, which is a board game and a toy company here in Malmö. And they had no digital components in them at all, but they were activity-based, and I think that's something that we have continued to work with, activity-based projects. Something we said from the beginning was also that we were working with spelifiering, we call it, and at that time, when we started, no one really understood what we were talking about when we said spelifiering or gamification. But now there has been quite a lot of talk about this concept. And gamification is to use methods and structures from games and put them into something that you don't consider being a game from the beginning. And we thought, for example, about the situation of a children's party. That is not a game from the beginning, but we gamified that situation in those two games that I was talking about. For example, in one of the games, you make a cake while you're playing. So you have to have the ingredients, and the children make the cake together. So that is a gamified children's party, you can say. And even if no one really understood what we were doing, they were still interested, so we started to get some commissions from customers like Tekniska Museet in Stockholm, Science Museum, and Universium, also a science museum in Gothenburg, Egmont, Region Skåne, and Malmö stad. So we'll talk a bit more about that. We got very intrigued about how to use game mechanics and games for change processes to make things happen in society or in businesses, or where you would like to use it. So one of our first projects that were gamification project was a project called talk.m4v. The customer was Regionservice. They own all the hospital buildings in Skåne, and they were interested in lowering the costs for energy. And we did it together with a communication agency called Manco, who are also here in Malmo. And one thing about hospital staff is that they are very under much pressure, and they have a lot of projects that tell them to cut the costs all the time. So the idea was that maybe a traditional cut the cost program wouldn't be such a good idea. So instead they wanted to make this campaign, power saving campaign, a bit more fun. And we thought about how to do that and come up with a concept where they got like a calendar for every day. The project was running for 6 months, but they played like 1 week a month more intensely. And then they got some assignment from the calendar about tasks to do and problems to solve and stuff like that in their environment. It was about thinking about where should it be, where should lights be put on, where could it be no lights on. They also had to switch off lamps and computers if they were not necessary. And for everything they did, they got points, and the wards competed against each other. So it was like a competition at the hospital. And it worked pretty well. 10 to 15% of the energy costs were lowered. It was also due to that Regionservice made some new installations, so it was not only the game, but it still raised the awareness about the project and the campaign. So it was run at 4 hospitals in Skåne. And that was our first real gamification project that we thought, oh, games can be used in this way and it can be really good. So we went on from the talk.m4v project and created a web-based platform called We Project. That's a tool that is gamified, so it has like some game mechanics built into it, and you can use it for change management and e-learning and businesses and organizations. And we will now actually go back to the hospital here in Skåne, SUS, Malmo and Lund Hospital, and make a new project with them about the safety education. Another thing that came out of the whole gamification thing, now you can't see it so good, but this fall we were invited with the project, We Project, to San Francisco and Stanford University to present our experiences and talk a bit more about gamification. So then we come up with this worksheet for gamification that I just wanted to tell you about, because if any of you are interested in working with gamification, then you can download this from our website and you can use it. It's like to think about how something can be gamified. So you have to look about what the goal is, what you want the game mechanics to make people do, what challenge the players will face, where they will play, the playfield, and what mechanics will make them do what you want them to do. You will also look a bit about the group that is going to play, what they need, what they would like to do, so that you make something that's suitable for that group. For example, the hospital staff, they couldn't put so much time into this because they had much more important things to do. So it was to take only a couple of minutes a day. So if you fill this in, I'm not going to go through everything, but it's a way of like looking at something, some project you want to gamify, and see if you have thought about the rules and the system. Because the game is always a system, and you make the rules of it. And when you want to use it for to make people do things, then it's very important to look at what you want to get out of it. Because sometimes people think that if you just make a game, it will be fun, but it's not that simple. It has to suit the purpose of the project. Another thing that we got into very quickly when we started was working with location-based games. That was also through an assignment we got from the city of Malmo in 2007. They wanted to make some kind of challenge for young people, high school kids, in the autumn break. So it was something that were going to take them to the outskirts of Malmo as well as the main parts of the city, because they wanted the kids to move around the city. So we made a really simple game called Lost in Malmo, which was about a missing person in Malmo. You played through SMS. So when you start the game, you get an intro SMS that leads you to gives you a clue to a place, and you go there. When you come to the place, you get a new SMS with a question or riddle or something that you can only solve if you're there. So it has to do with something on the spot. And when you've solved it, you send an SMS back, and you get the next one. So it's really simple. But it got those kids playing, and some of them even took their clothes off in November, because there were some crazy assignments in the game, and it worked pretty well for them. When we designed this game, we were biking around in Malmö just to find all the locations that were going to go in the game. And we found out that it was fun to play the game, but it was also very much fun to make the game. So we thought a bit about how to take this further when we were done with the commission from the city. So we went on with the project and developed it further into what we call Urblab. And in the Lost in Malmo, you could only play the game, but in Urblab, the idea is that anyone can make their own game in the city. And we got some research funding from Vinnova to look a bit more into this, and we did that together with Medea here. So then we made a lot of workshops with the kids where they made their own games. For example, in Hermodsdal, here are the kids in Hermodsdal making their games. They choose locations and they write a story, the SMS messages that the player gets. We also work with Töstabilarna. It's a girl skate group who also made games, and those games were more centered around skating spots. And we also had a cultural geographer called Karin Bok, who followed the kids when they made the games, and she found that you could actually say something about the lives of about the locations because all the kids that make games, they use spots and locations that they use in their everyday lives. So in a way, those games said something about their environment, about their lives. We didn't really think about that when we started to work with this, but it was like an interesting outcome that we hadn't thought about. So then we started thinking, maybe we can use this for some other purpose than just pure fun. So now we are working with the city of Staffanstorp. It's a very small town close to here. And they are using Erglöv and the concept of people in the town making games to communicate with the citizens about spots and locations in the town. They're working on now how to develop the town and what places are really important, what should be kept, what should be developed. And using a game to collect information is another way than using interviews, for example, and you get another kind of response. So we got groups that might not have been so interested in responding to interviews to take part in this. So we worked, for example, with the youth cafe and the folklore community. We worked with the open preschool for families, and also with a center, daytime activity center for people with learning disabilities. And all those 4 groups, they made one game each. So here is the folklore society with the people that have been living in Staffanstorp for 60 years. And we use those books here to collect the information about the spots and the locations that they thought were really important in the town. And we worked during workshops with the storytelling in the games. And now we are making those into the SMS games that are going to be played in May in Staffanstorp. So if you're in Staffanstorp, you can try them out from the 5th of May. They just take you to different spots in Staffanstorp that those groups thought were really important. So we've been involved in quite a lot of things, and gamification and play, and that has been important to us, working with people and participation. But somewhere along the line we started to get, we were missing something. And it was more like the storytelling part. We had done a lot of projects where people told their stories, and in Erglöv you give people a tool to use and to make their own things, but we also thought we have some stories to tell too. So now we're moving into something a bit different. So the project we're mostly working on now is called Granny's Dancing on the Table. It's a transmedia project, and that means that it has storytelling on different platforms. So it consists of a feature film, iPad game, and some other activities like exhibitions and events. And this is in development, so nothing is done yet. It's pretty early stages. The game, we work together with a film production company, a film director called Hanna Sköld. She's from Malmo. And also, some other parts in this project. Also Medea is involved. But we are responsible for the game, and it's going to be a game for iPad where you play a spirit bird that is sent from the common subconscious to help the people of a town. And the town has become the people in the town has become ruled by fear. They can't dream anymore. They're really isolated. So your job as a player is to help them. And to your help, you have some other birds that you collect in your tree. And I've been thinking quite a lot about why we are right now in a process of maybe changing our ways a bit, because we've been working a lot with games for change, and we still want to do that, but in the new project it's more about personal development and change through transformative experiences, and not so much societal change. I think we will still continue working with that, but maybe not as much as before. When I was thinking about what the interaction design program gave me and how it affected me, I think that I really learned to look at the user first and not so much at the technology, and I think it affected us a lot in how we have developed our projects. One thing I've also been thinking about is that it seems that lots of interaction designers become entrepreneurs. Many of the people who went to the interaction design program start their own businesses, and I was thinking about why it is that way. But I think if you start with the user or the person who is going to use something, you will find some needs. And if you find needs that are not met, then you can make a product out of it. So I don't think it's very strange that there comes so many ideas from interaction designers that can be made into companies. But I don't know how much that is like discussed in the educations, but we can talk a bit more about. And now I was super quick. I think I lost like half of what I was going to say. So I think I will let you ask me some questions and I will try to answer them.
I have a question about gamification. I mean, it seems that now you shifted a little bit away from gamification to more of a narrative focused on your own. It's a question about gamification and, let's say, education and learning, and kind of the idea that the problem with gamification, or a challenge in gamification, is that it demands people to be active all the time. But yet, you know, sometimes you like to be passive or you like to be told a story. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it has been a very large focus on activity, like a trend for activity and participation and also co-creation. But it's true that sometimes people really just want to take in something. I also think that it's very good to offer tools for people to be creative, but sometimes you also have something you yourself want to tell. And I think a good balance between the two, because you also sometimes need to put something in to make people get creative. So sometimes they need like a story or a universe to fall back on to be creative themselves. So I think maybe for gamification, sometimes it seems a little too like an instrument that you're just going to use to make people do something, and you maybe lose a bit of the feeling or the soul. Yeah. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
In terms of making creative tools, what's been your experience in terms of, I mean, a lot of times as designers or in related technologies, there's a desire to create tools in order for people to be creative, but when it comes to the fact that most people are not really, don't want to be creative, you look at the number of editors on Wikipedia, or you look at the 80-20, 80-20 law, it turns out that 90% of the people do nothing but read Wikipedia 9% do something and 1%, actually make Wikipedia. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in the development of your kind of games and interactions, how you've overcome that or dealt with that, and what challenges you faced in that?
Yeah, it's really true that it can be really hard to get people to create and participate in creation. Somehow you think that everyone just wants, yes, we're going to come and we're going to create, but it's quite a big threshold to get people to start creating and contributing. So it's true, and if you really design the whole thing really well, then maybe you have the 9% creating and the 90% just consuming what the others created maybe. But it can be really hard to get it to be that way. And sometimes you really, in our projects, we've found that sometimes we'll need to almost force people to be creative. But it can also be done, but it's not always the way you think that people will participate voluntarily. So it can be really easy to overestimate how much activity or creativity you can get out of it.
What made you start your own business, and what visions did you have in the beginning? What did you think you would want to do, which did not become true?
Mm-hmm. The strange thing is that we said from the beginning that we were going to do almost exactly what we have done, and it was a bit like we've done very many different things, and we said from the beginning that we were. So it has been the way we thought, but now probably because we were very curious about what could be done, and that's maybe what we're getting a bit tired of now, to have like so many different projects and so many different target groups, and it's hard to focus and like build something out of it. So I think we were very eager to try all the possibilities, and now we've done that, and maybe we'll find something to like stay focused on. But why we decided to start the business was because we both wanted to make games, but we didn't see any company that we wanted to work with. Now we know some, but at that time we didn't. So we thought, okay, we wanted to live in Malmo as well, and there were some game companies, but there were none that we wanted to work on. So it was, yeah, we'll do it ourselves.
Do you have any advice on starting your own business in interaction design?
Yeah, I think Karin may have had some trouble with both being designers. It's like we want to design, we want to move on. So when we've made one project, we're like, okay, let's move on. We want to design something new. So we think it would be good to have someone who's very like, no, let's make money out of this. That would be very good. So if you find such a person, hold on to that person. Have someone in the team to really like focus on how to be commercial also, because we are more interested in the design, what can be done, that's what motivates us. But you also have to like make money, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, about the financial aspect, could you say something about the scope of the projects you presented? Like how long would they last, and the funding? How would you? How is it hard to secure funding for research or for working on the actual development of the product?
It can be really hard. It depends upon what project. It's much easier to get funding for like the gamification projects that are more that has some societal value or something. Also, the research funding for those is easier than like the the last project I presented, which is more like entertainment, is much harder, of course, because there are so many companies want to do that. But the more gamification thing is not so many companies working with that. Both talk.m and Lost in Malmo was funded by a customer from the beginning, so we started to develop something that was financed, and then we moved on and tried to get some funding from like Vinnova or other funding bodies that can help with business development. So it has been like, it's always a patchwork of different sources to get the funding for the project. I don't know why this.
I was wondering. I know the gamification. I'm familiar with gamification, but I know that there are a number of companies who think that gamification means let's make something that people don't want to do really, really fun. And there's like sometimes this clash. Like Microsoft has put gamification into Visual Studio, so when you're writing code, you get achievements, but that like doesn't make any sense. I was wondering, have you been approached by companies that try to do this? They try to sort of cram gamification into something where it's not really doing well.
Not really, but we have met people think that it will solve every problem or like it will change everything. Yeah.
I think it's fine, it's just the battery.
Yeah, the battery of this one is dying.
Yeah, it's that one. Then I'll go on with this one. We had like some person working in a municipality who wrote to us and just, this can change everything. We can change the whole system and how we work, and we were a bit like, maybe, but maybe not. So people can have very high expectations and hopes for it, and they can be very hard to meet. But we have not worked so much we haven't worked with gamification for advertising and things like that, because we're not so interested in that.
I've heard about there's a school in New York which works, but the whole school works on gamification framework. Have you heard about that?
No, I haven't actually.
So do you think that it would be interesting to put some elements of gamification in the like educational system or work processes?
It can be, yeah. It can be done. I think that it often loses its. We found that for the Wii project and talk.m projects, you need to do it more like a campaign, because you lose it's very much fun in the beginning, and then it's not so much fun after 3 months. So of course it depends on how you build the game mechanics, but if it's very simple with just points and rewards, maybe you get tired of it pretty quickly. So the funny thing is, it's nothing new. Like they've used it's called token economy in prisons and in educations, like since from the 30s. So, and it's gamification. So it's actually nothing new.
Some of the main steps you take from being a student to opening your company, and also like what problems did you have when you just started? Because if it's probably like you were lucky that it started off really great, that's good. But did you have problems in the beginning, and how did you go through those problems and stay alive?
Yeah, the hard part was getting customers in the beginning, because we didn't really know how do you do it. So we started out sitting like for ourselves, making board games and things like that. I love that. I could sit like in a room and just design things and not meeting anyone. It would be cool. But so it was really to get out and start talking to people and start finding customers was the hard part, and it still is. It's always the hard part to be enough active outward. But we started out with meeting the board game publishers, because then we were working with board games. And through one of them, we got our first real commission for something else, and that was gamifying an internet community. So then we got more into the digital things. Yeah.
How do you see the landscape of game publishing, and how do you compare it? Like, do you have any kind of intention to go into the market, or do you want to remain in those niche markets, or like for specific customers?
No, we are very interested in going more for a traditional market, or going directly to customers. So with the iPad game, we will do that, of course. But that's I think we will do a bit of both for a while, because in a way it's easier to work business to business, because the projects are much bigger and you get more money from those. But if you succeed with a more traditional game, then the possibility might be bigger. So.
Do you or find another companies to do development, or you just do all like a game by yourself?
Yeah, I didn't say. Up until now, we've always worked with other companies. We are designers and we just do design, but I do some graphics. So for some of the projects, I made the graphics. And Karin is a programmer, but she never does that anymore. So we write like the specifications and things like that, and then we use either another company, or we use project employees that come in for just the project. So, but we hope to expand company, but maybe in a half year or something like that. We're just the two of us still.
Are you becoming more of project managers in that sense, because you kind of have to combine all these different resources?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you like that, or?
I don't like it. I think that Karin likes it a bit more than I do, so often she is more like the project leader. I try to work more with design and making. I do a lot of graphic design for like project things, presentations and materials and stuff like that. So I have like divided that a bit into. So I work more as a designer and she is more the project leader.
Can you talk a little bit about your strategy, how you want to do new things, develop new projects, or in a sense, do service work versus developing your own product, and how you balance that in the company?
We've thought a lot about that, because we really want to have some products, because it's a much better business model to have a product to sell than to just sell a service. It has been really hard, I can say. Somehow we still make the money from the service part of it, like making the design, making workshops, selling a project. It has been very hard to sell like licenses for the We Project platform, because maybe because it would need a lot more marketing, and we have no resources for doing that. So we want it to be that way, but it has been really hard to make it that way. So, but it's the strategy and the aim is to have products to be able to sell more of them, because if we have to do everything, then we can never make so much money. We can only pay like our salaries. And of course, money is not everything, but it's still good.
Is there something that you would have liked the university to prepare you more for as a student? Was there something that you were missing from the education that you kind of see now in retrospective?
Maybe that's hard because everyone who is an interaction designer won't start their own business, but for me, of course, it would have been good with some things about how that works. I wanted more game design, but that's because I'm interested in that. Otherwise, I think actually it prepared me pretty well because what we do now is about the same that we learned doing during the education. But maybe we do it now that way because that's what I learned. I don't know.
One more question. What about how do you balance your own kind of time for personal development and personal research with the need to, of course, generate money to live on in a small company? Any strategies, recommendations for you? Because that's also, a frustrating thing about having a small company is that you're always, trying to make money to pay a bill.
Yeah, we've found it really frustrating because we are so interested in concept development and making our own things. So it has been the idea from the beginning that should be a large part of the company, but it's very hard. So, but sometimes we we did it now in January and February. We just said these 2 months we're just working with our own projects. So we do it that way if we have like a little time left to do it. But it's very hard to have a strategy for it because sometimes you just have to do customer projects. So it can be more of an aim but I wouldn't want to have the company if I couldn't work with my own creative ideas. So it's very important.
Do you also use game kind of methods for your own ideation? Because like games, they are kind of engaging, but they can also be entangling for creativity. Like they have own rule systems. What do you think about this tension maybe?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure we've used it ourselves. We use more like brainstorm methods, but not gamified. It could be interesting to look into, but we haven't really. But we have done it. It's a bit strange that you do it for other, like we do a workshop for someone else, then we might use the technique, but we maybe don't use it ourselves. I don't know why.
Should make a game for customers so they will compete on each other to earn points to be your clients.
Yeah, we would. That's a good idea.
Out of all the projects you mentioned, like the patient-based gaming, which project did you find more challenging? Because sometimes the specifications of stakeholders do change. So which one do you find?
You mean for us towards the customer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Lost in Malmo project was challenging in that sense that the city had some too high expectations also about how many people would play the game, and we were a bit inexperienced. So that was, and it also took us, because we had to design. They thought there are 10,000 young people, so maybe 4,000 will play the game, and that's completely crazy. And we didn't really, we understood that it wasn't possible, but we didn't say that to them, because we're like, okay, well, then we'll make it so that 4,000 people can play. So we did, and it made us make much too much content, because we had to make different paths for the players and the different, lots more content. And also the city was a bit disappointed when just like 100 people played, which was pretty okay, I think. But so that's more and it comes from experience to be able to say to a customer, I don't think you've understood how this works, and we were a bit too inexperienced. So that's not, afterwards we thought, oh, we should have done it differently. So.
Can you tell us what you would have done differently, or maybe what you would have hoped the city would have done differently?
We should have told them that it wasn't possible to get so many players. Yeah. And then that would have affected, yeah. What you're afraid of is, of course, that they then would say, but then we don't want to do it, so that's why you don't say anything, but yeah. Otherwise...
It wasn't that advertised either.
No, it wasn't. It was, and it was at the, it was here in the Western Harbor, and not so many young people just pass by. They have to know about it, and it was yeah, that's a very interesting topic actually, because the marketing is almost never our responsibility in the project, but it's almost always what fails, and it's very frustrating because you've made the concept and the idea, and you want people to take part in it, but often we can't. Maybe that could be something to like put demands on. If we are going to do this, we also need you to put in this amount of marketing.
Have you considered doing the marketing next time?
We have considered it, but I'm not sure we're right, the right people to do it.
Maybe Facebook can help you.
Well?
Maybe Facebook can help you in marketing.
Yeah. Marketing is really hard.
Do you employ people?
Yeah, we do sometimes, like for shorter employments.
And you talked about that, like we're all students, so like if you want to apply to Ozma,
Mm-hmm.
do you take internships or do you just have like more long-term employment?
We have had internships. We have had like people doing their exam projects and different topics, like both in Herblad and We projects we had internships. We've had, when we have employees, it's almost always graphic artists or programmers up until now. So because we are designers, so yeah, we often need the other parts of the project.
But do you post about vacancies, or should, if someone is interested, they should just contact you?
Yeah, they should just contact us. It's very seldom that we go out and say that we need something, so it's good to know which people are around and we can contact them.
What can you tell us a little bit about your experience at Ming, so that many people here can have an idea what it's like to be incubated?
We moved into Mink in 2006, so it was pretty early. We had an office for half a year before. We wanted to get into Mink because we had been at the summer course where Karin and me met. We had like a studiebesök at Mink, and we thought that we want to be here. So we applied pretty early, and they said no, you have to work on your business plan a bit more. So we did, and then we got back half a year later, and then we got into the incubator. And it was very good to be at Mink, but mainly because you met so many other people there, other companies, and also you got a bit of business development coaching and stuff like that. But also finding customers, and yeah, so it was really good. And we still share office with a company that we met at Mink. So I almost think that the best thing was to meet other companies that were in the same, doing the same thing, the same challenges, and you could get advice from each other.
Did you take a business development course at interaction design, or there's no?
No, there was nothing about that. I don't know if it is now. No.
We have one in media software design
Mm-hmm.
in the fall if anyone's interested in signing up. I don't know if it helps because it's, I think, different to practice. Of course, it's always good to practice. It's another thing to present your business case to an incubator or to an investor. It doesn't hurt to practice.
No.
What do you feel about, I mean, being an entrepreneur is always kind of a leap of faith, like being an artist. So, I mean, do you think you're ever prepared for it?
No, I don't. I think what has made us stick around is like being really stubborn. I think that's a very good thing to be. To just, we're going to do this. It's going to work in some way. So, and it's always very challenging, but it often just, yeah, it's been lots of times when we thought, how is this going to go? And then it has somehow, it's, yeah, solved itself.